Yes, folks, I know we're in the Clásico week. Yes, it's soon going to be time to talk about the greatest fixture in world football, coming at you next Sunday and being analysed, built up to and eulogised on Revista de la Liga for the next 6 or 7 days. Count on it. But this is the channel where on Mondays you get Gazzetta de la Liga, paying homage to James Richardson on Mondays after the weekend's action in Spain. And that's where you find yourself right now, by coincidence. Knee-deep in controversy this weekend, if we want to tell the truth. So let's sort some things out. In the last match of the weekend, Real Madrid went to their neighbours Getafe and played pretty poorly. Hold on there, Madridistas, save your coronaries, not nearly as poorly as champions Barcelona played in scraping through to a 2-1 victory over Girona. Oh no. But the men who would be champions, the men who host the Clásico next Sunday, did not play well against their thuggish blue neighbours from down the road. And before anybody calls the lawyers, I claim veritas, truth. The match finished with 2 of Bordalas's men sent off, and although there are a million different arguments about whether they should have been red carded or not, what constitutes a foul, all the usual utter bollocks on a Monday in the media after La Liga has vented its spleen, the hard fact is that both Neom and Sancris did deserve to be ordered off. The key thing that all the mudslinging afterwards is trying hard to hide is the fact that not only did Madrid not run away with the game when they were facing only 9 opponents, it was only thanks to their brilliant big Belgian run-out of other alliterative words keeper Thibaut Courtois that Getafe didn't equalise from point-blank range in the dying seconds. It was a whites of the eyes, one-on-one chance, and it was saved by Courtois just as he had saved Madrid's bacon 2 weeks ago against Villarreal. Straight to the action. With just about a quarter of an hour left, Bordalas put his big, gangling, nightclub bouncer, annoying arsehole, fullback Alan Neom onto the pitch. All the TV and radio commentators then and since have said that this was because Kiko Femenia had been booked. Bordalas didn't want a red card. But the fact is that Neom was also sent on to try and bully and intimidate Vinicius, and 39 seconds later, his jiu-jitsu grappling with the Brazilian led to a totally deserved red card. Again, this is where I put some context on the matter. Getafe were promoted in 2017, and in each of the 9 seasons since, only twice has this thuggish outfit not finished bottom of La Liga's Fair Play League. What is a fair play league, and is there a trophy? It's where at the end of the season you tot up all the fouls, all the bookings, all the red cards, and give them a points value and see who's cleanest and who's dirtiest. Over and over and over again, Getafe win this apparently much sought after ugly trophy. They are, particularly under Bordalas, the team with the least regard for the rules, for fair play, and the team which absolutely counts on trying to kick, foul, tug, intimidate or bully opponents and referees. It's a statistical fucking fact. The Emperor has no clothes on, but he does have pointed-toed boots, knuckle dusters, and is prone to headbutts. More evidence you want, eh? Well, post-match, Sancris, the second to be sent off, admitted, Vinicius didn't fake when I was red-carded. I kicked him. It was my mistake and I'll have to learn from that and not do it again next time. Listen, let's pause right there. This is the only weekly part of Revista de la Liga which is free to all of you. If you like Spanish football, if you like football, if you even like vaguely spicy jokes and language that you don't hear elsewhere, then sign up, join us, become a socio. The reason I ask you to do that is to support us. It is unbelievably cheap, £3.99 per month. That's a month full of B12 nutrition and value, hearing about Spanish football and hearing my pungent views. Or 30 quid will take you all the way, every week, every month through till after the World Cup final in New Jersey next summer. So join us. The way to do it is in the description. Just click on the link and support us, please. It's Clásico week. When better to support us and get all the content. Content that this week will include Kevin Bridges, Greg McHugh, Michael Laudrup, me, Jamie, Pete Jensen, Gaisca Mendieta, you name them. What about the champions then? I said they played badly. For the socios on Saturday afternoon, I pointed out that Araujo, the centre-half, who isn't playing, was brought on to a Barcelona side which wasn't playing either. Araujo could have been sulking. Araujo's the Uruguayan who thought he'd be centre-half each week, who's constantly refused to leave the club where they thought they could cash in on him. He could have come out with a petted lip that Greg Louganis or Tom Daly could have dived off, divin off. But he didn't. This is the guy who was raised in baby football in Uruguay. Baby football being this idea that you go out age 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you play as if you were a grown-up Luis Suarez every single week. Parents will routinely say to their kids, get out there, do damage, win, and if you don't win, don't come back home. Baby football in Uruguay. Go and read about it. But in baby football, this centre-half for Barcelona, alternately sometimes a right-back, something I might think we might see him doing against Olympiacos on Tuesday. Araujo came on at centre-forward. Yes, things weren't going that badly. It was save us at any cost. It was how do we get out of this situation? How they got out of that situation was a nice ball from Rooney to overlapping De Jong into the middle, and Victor Rice outpaced and outmuscled by Araujo for an added time, last seconds win, which saw sent off Hansi Flick running out and giving it two of these to whom? To the referee, to the world, to Girona, to the committee that decides whether he's already one match ban for being sent off by the referee Gil Manzano. Yes, there'll be protests about that and there'll be bureaucracy about that. The argument about whether his red card means he cannot be on the bench for the Clásico next week in the Bernabeu. That argument will rain on and on and on, and there'll be accusations of bias and cheating. What that will cover up is the fact that Girona ripped Barcelona to shreds for an hour, and if Michel's team, who 2 seasons ago beat Barcelona home and away, scoring 4 goals each time, if they'd had the shooting boots on, for example, the Ukrainian striker Van Aert, or Brian Hill, or Porto, or Witsel, who scored a really lovely overhead goal to equalise Pedri's opener, if they'd had the shooting boots on, Barcelona were in 5-1 down by half-time. They weren't. They got out of jail. It was an extraordinarily Houdini act, and it meant that they kept pace with Madrid, who, as we pointed out, won at Getafe. Well, Sancris spoke out at Getafe and said, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't Vinicius' fault, it was mine. I wonder how much honesty and self-recrimination will be popular with Bordalas at Getafe. I don't think so. But if you force me to go back to the football, 2 things are really important, at least beyond the brilliance of Courtois, Madrid's Belgian keeper. Kylian Mbappe scored again. He's rattling in the goals and assists, but his key supplier is Arda Güler by a mile. So next Sunday, that combination is one of the things that Barcelona, who played so poorly against Girona, need to try and snuff out. Every single one of Güler's assists this season, in Champions League or in the league, have gone to Mbappe. They're the dynamic duo for Madrid. They're 2 of the most important players that Flick's men need to work out how to close down, because at the moment, by their own admission after the Girona game, Pedri pointed out, our pressing is very poor. One nota bene from these top 2 games is that Vinicius, whatever else you think about him, is really funny. When Neom was being sent off for his high kick off the ball on Vinicius, and when Mbappe went immediately and scored, Vinicius trotted over to Getafe's coach, Bordalas, and said, hey mate, great substitutions. Neom just cost you the game. Haha. That, by anybody's standards, is classic sledging. Bordalas was in huff about it, nose out of joint, and moping and whining to the radio post-match. Well, bollocks to all of them. The game of the weekend, if we're really forced to get back to football again, rather than arguments and finger-pointing and fouls and red cards and controversy, came at Villarreal, where the Yellow Submarine went 2-0 up very easily and looked as if they were going to run away with the game against a direct rival for European football. And then, suddenly, they become concentration deficient and somnambulant. Consciously or subconsciously, Marcelino's team decided to stop marking Antony. The Brazilian hasn't perhaps been at his absolutely scintillating best since he returned to the south of Spain from Manchester. But he looked absolutely wonderful in this match. The couple of weeks extra fitness work that he's been able to do during the international break have paid off beautifully, and his goals were lovely. The guy who didn't forget about Antony is Pablo Fornals. He's playing the best football of his career, certainly since he left Villarreal, and it'll be a surprise if Fornals doesn't get an opportunity with Spain in the coming months. 2 of his passes, both of them goal assists to Antony, turned the game around, and the Brazilian very nearly got the winner too. That would have been a slap in the face for Villarreal. Betis, in getting the point from the Madrigal, equalled an all-time record for the club in terms of scoring in consecutive matches. So while they're playing both domestic and European football with the cup competition just round the corner, and Pellegrini looking for a new contract, Los Verde Blancos are a really attractive show to follow. Whenever you look at Betis in action, there's always going to be fun, end-to-end thrills and goals galore. If the injured players come back and make a proper difference, Isco soon, it's arguable that Betis can be looking ambitiously at 4th position. I think it's going to be too much for them over the course of the season, but boy, they give you back fun if you choose to follow them. The same couldn't be said for Athletic and Elche on Sunday. Pretty dull 0-0 draw, but take a look at young Rodri Mendoza. Only a sub for the home side because he'd just come back from the Under-20 World Cup in Chile, but that kid can really play. He's effervescent, and his club are going to have to do extremely well to hold on to him when bigger fishes come hunting either in January or June. Remember the name, Mendoza. He's not a dame. As for Sevilla, well, there was a corrective. They'd looked vibrant and aggressive and confident in slapping Barcelona around 2 weeks ago for a 4-1 win. But Mallorca came down to the Nervion, gave Almeida's side a 1-goal start and then ripped them to shreds. A good day, even though he'd been at fault for Sevilla's goal, for Jan Virgili. His creative skills helped open things up for Mallorca to get back in the game via the Pirate, Morici, of course, and then 2 from Matteo Joseph. Jan Virgili left Barcelona to go to Mallorca simply because he wasn't going to get enough game time and Barcelona needed the money. There's a buyback clause, and in Virgili, they've let a cracker go. Mallorca fans, enjoy the hell out of him while you possibly can. Coming to the end now, Jorge de Frutos for Rayo helped his club make an absolute mockery of the idea that somewhere where the fans and the president are perpetually at each other's throat, somewhere where the budget is minimal and the resources should not be able to stretch to play competitively, at least domestically and in Europe. Well, Rayo are just making a mockery of that overstretched idea, a mockery. Their 3-0 win was completed with a pair from De Frutos, who's on probably his best form of his career, and one from Alvaro Garcia. And the side benefit, and we all like a bit of side benefit, is that when I go to interview the manager and a couple of players, including Isi Palazon on Tuesday, the mood has to be great. Come on, Rayo. Not so much at Levante, De Frutos' old club, remember, where defending is out of fashion and their home record is awful. Of the 3 promoted sides, it's really only Elche that are looking comfortable in this division, and that was emphasised when Oviedo, who really made an arse of themselves by sacking the coach Paunovic, lost at home to the resurgent, muscular Espanyol, who are fighting to be back in Europe for the first time since 2020. It's not the new coach's fault at Oviedo, Luis Carrion, that he was booed and whistled. He was offered the job to come back to the club where he once worked, and he took it. It's the board's fault that Paunovic, who brought them up, was sacked, having done an extremely competent job. And in all honesty, if you hire a manager called Carrion, you have to accept jokes about infamy. They've all got it infamy. Well, if we've got it in for you this time, it's deserved. Atleti continue their resurgence with a 1-goal win, but things are optimistic around Cholo's team now, apart from the fact that his son, his lightning-fast wingback, call him what you will, Giuliano, is now out for 4 months with an injury. They'll miss him, no question about that. You would argue that at last the Colchoneros need to look at winning a trophy in the Copa or the Champions League. They're too far back in the league. Yes, already, I think, but having slapped Madrid for 5, and with the Champions League starting to take shape for them, it's a tantalising idea that they might be trophy relevant, that their improvements might be working, and they might have a chance of winning something, lifting silverware, for the first time since lifting the league in 2021. Carlos Soler brought a tiny little glimpse of sunshine for Real Sociedad, who still couldn't manage to beat 10-man Celta Vigo, who you do have to say absolutely love a 1-1 draw. In the old days, everybody would have had them on their pool's coupon, guaranteed score draw, home or away. Celta, I think, have now drawn 1,000 times 1-1 this season. They must be fucking sick of it. Monday night, Valencia play at Alaves, but given this is a Champions League week where I'll be working at Barça versus Olympiacos and Real Madrid against Juventus, it really is time to get off now. To prepare for those two games, so tune in live post-match on Substack, all socios, and time to set my mind towards the Clásico. This is a week when you'll be hearing, as I said, from Kevin Bridges, Greg McHugh, Guys Comendieta, Michael Laudrup, me, Pete Jensen, and Jamie Easton, because this is Clásico week on Revista de la Liga. Love you all. Stay tuned. No tenéis ni puta idea. Yes, you do, actually.